Are you tired of a podcast that only entertains you without leaving you with something to think about? Are you looking for a podcast that truly enrich your life? Then Let's Talk is the show for you. Our motto is to make people think after every episode, and we take that mission seriously. Each episode is carefully crafted to provide an insight and ideas to help you live a more fulfilling life. From practical tips for improving your mental and physical health to thought provoking ideas and discussions on personal growth and development, Let's Talk has something for everyone. Our guests come from a variety of backgrounds and bring wealth of knowledge and experience to the table. We believe that everyone has something to teach, and we are committed to bringing you the best insights, ideas from the wide range of perspective. So, if you're ready to start thinking more deeply about your life, how you can make it better, then Let's Talk is the podcast for you. Subscribe today and start enriching your life one thought provoking episode at a time. Welcome to Let's Talk Podcast. Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Podcast. If you have seen so far, Let's Talk has been evolving for effective mediums for storytelling and information sharing. On Let's Talk Podcasts, we are not only celebrating the triumph of the human spirit, but also brings to the fore the real life struggles of the ordinary individuals, demonstrating uncommon courage and resilience. It uncovers the untold stories of the people who are not typically in the limelight, but who exemplify remarkable fortitude and determination as they battle against the odds. And here are some of the reasons why we do what we do. The first one is promoting empathy and understanding. The podcast, Let's Talk podcast, features real life heroes and their struggles. Our listeners to give an opportunity to empathize with experience beyond their own. This shared understanding can help promote more compassionate society by exposing listeners to different perspective and realities. Number second, inspiration and motivation. Hearing about everyday people who have faced adversity and overcome significant challenges can be deeply inspiring. These stories can serve a reminder that we all have the potential to be resilient and courageous in the face of adversity. They provide a much needed dose of motivation for those who may be facing their own struggles. And that much needed dose of motivation is very important, actually. If you think from the reinforcing the fact, we already know that these things are important. But listening from some other's perspective really helps us to drive even further. Third one, promoting mental health. Discussing the struggles can normalize the discussions and conversations about mental health. Many real life heroes have faced significant mental health issues and challenges. By openly discussing the issues, and podcasts like us can help to a certain extent reduce the stigma and encourage listeners to seek help if needed. Fourth, educational values. These stories can provide valuable life lessons. They can teach listeners about resiliency, courage, determination, and the power of the human spirit. Moreover, they can also educate listeners about the specific issues and challenges that they may not have been previously aware of. Fifth one, fostering community. Podcasts like us can share real life struggles, can help listeners feel less alone in their own challenges. They can create a sense of community to the listeners who may be experiencing similar struggles, offer a platform for support, understanding, and shared experience. And the last one is a catalyst for change. Real life heroes can often inspire social changes. They can raise awareness about the specific societal issues, instigate discussions, and even encourage listeners to take actions. These can lead to information, involve community, and ultimately the overall societal improvement. So now, why exactly we're discussing all these things? And there's a reason. The reason is our guest. Our guest, Brad Stuckerberg, before I can give some introduction, been in our podcast last year, which is also pretty funny to mention. I was discussing with Brad before we hit the record that exactly a year back on 30th April 2022, we had this conversation, which is episode 6, if anyone would like to review. And Brad has really came up being a bit vulnerable and authentic and share a lot of his life lessons and stories. Now, if you're reasoning why we are having again Brad, because in this 1 year, a lot of things have been changed in his life. And we want to make sure that it's not like a one checkpoint we will bring together our perspective. We also see, right, how we transition, what is the journey looks like for the people who already shared some of the experience with us. So that being said, very intrigued to talk to you, Brad, again. And again, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Rob. Happy to be here. Really excited to have a conversation with you today.
The pleasure is all mine, or I would say all the listeners here as well. So yeah, Brad, last conversation we had some of the things about your childhood, how exactly, and some of the struggles you had, and obviously your professional career, how you switched over, a lot of imposter syndrome, challenges, and all. Now, over the last year, a lot of physical and emotional challenges you faced as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's start with that. What exactly has changed over the last 1 year?
Well, it's interesting, Sarab. Like you said last time that we talked, we were really talking primarily about the fact that throughout my life, leading up to the conversation that we had, I had faced a lot of struggles, a lot of things, overcome some adversity, and some of the ideas around how I had done that, and the ways that I face adversity, the ways that I try to overcome it. And this last year has been interesting as we've come out of a pandemic, as life has been continuing to charge forward, even in the midst of a pandemic. It's not like life slowed down for any of us during the pandemic, and so as we came out of that time, and everybody was looking to get back to life the way we used to know it. I think a lot of us found out that life the way we used to know it wasn't necessarily there anymore. A lot of things had changed in the background, things that we didn't even think about. Willingness of people to socialize in the same ways that we've always socialized with them, all kinds of things had changed. Um, and for me, some significant changes occurred in the last year surrounding, like you said, my health. I had shoulder surgery, and that kind of took me from a place of hey, I'm overcoming life, I'm succeeding, I'm strong, I'm capable, I'm all of these things, to a place of being reduced to someone who was once again dependent on other people for a lot of the things that daily people are comfortable and confident that they can overcome on their own. Little things like washing my hair. Like when you don't have an arm, you can't you can't do things that you normally can do. And so struggling through that period of having my arm pinned to my side was difficult. My wife went through a bicycle accident. She had a pretty bad bike crash in a race about a month and a half ago. So even just in 2023, it's been a bit of a struggle for us, and just going through the motions of that. So yeah, there's a lot that's changed. My kids are getting older, and the older they get, the more that they add to our lives too, right? With their continuous soaking up all of the things that are happening around them, and the questions and the deep questions that kids start to ask as they get older, really put a focus on stuff that I haven't yet had to face as a parent. And so I think, in the 1 year since we've talked, those things have really they've impacted me, and it's been interesting. on top of that, I think we can add the fact that we've seen a lot of reductions in workforces across the globe, but primarily here in the US, there's been a lot of folks who have been looking for new opportunities as a result of changes there. And so just going through all of that, it's really renewed this sense in me that community and the resilience that community can provide really is important for us to be able to overcome the struggles that we face.
Absolutely. And so, as you mentioned about you went through shoulder surgery, and some of the things which we never even thought about giving a thought in our life now becomes so important. And that, I think, one of the way where we try to get the true value of our life, as you mentioned. I mean, uh, when I started doing hiking on 14,000 footers, and when I was without water for more than 5 hours, at that time, actually, I realized what actual thirst looks like.
Hmm.
Because we are in a way like in a privileged background, in a way that when we are thirsty or when we are hungry, we get things quickly, relatively, right? So when you had this shoulder surgery, before that, walk us through like how was the life before you had this incident? Were you already expecting the surgery to happen? How exactly cope up? Because there are a lot of people who get these. We will get into your wife's accident as well, because that was not planned, or that was not like you were expecting. But like when something is planned, like surgery or something, maybe you get a date, and as you approach that date, help us walk through what is the sentiments, emotions, how you talk to your family, or anything which people can
Yeah.
definitely relate to.
Yeah. So, you know, it's really interesting. So this was my second shoulder surgery on the same shoulder. I'm right-handed.
Wow.
It was my right shoulder. And so you would think, oh, super simple. He's already been through this before. He's going to know exactly what he's going to go through. It's going to be exactly the same thing. There's nothing to worry about. He knows exactly what to expect. It couldn't be further from the truth. I thought I knew what to expect. And that's the thing about life, that the struggles that we face, it's fascinating to me that the struggles that we face, no matter how similar to the ones we faced before, they don't necessarily yield the same outcome. And we think we know what we have to do. We think we know how to overcome. We think we know what's needed to be strong and courageous and powerful through those struggles that we're going to face. And we find out that we don't. And so I'll give you a great example of what I'm saying here. As I was preparing, I knew when my surgery was going to be. I had a conversation with a surgeon back in November, and I told him I wanted to have the surgery as early in the year as possible so it didn't interfere with my cycling season. And he said, okay, let's do it in January. We scheduled it. Everything's good to go. Going to go to the surgical center, have the surgery done. I go there. I have everything done. It was way better than the first experience. It wasn't in a hospital. It was in an outpatient facility. It was smoother process. It was all the way around. It was a great process. And I thought, oh man, this is off to a great start. This is fantastic. It's going to be the best experience ever. I know what to expect. Um, and and I went home, and for the first 5 or 6 days, I thought, oh, this is better than I thought it was going to be. They gave me a bunch of exercises to do. Everything was great. And I thought, oh, this is so much better, because last time I couldn't do any exercises for 8 weeks. And so I thought, well, I'm on the road to recovery so fast this time. It's going to be great. And on day 7, nerve pain set in. And the nerve pain that I faced was, I can't describe a more painful thing than that. Like in all of my life, I've broken bones, I've torn muscles, obviously, I've done all kinds of things. And in all of my life, I've never had pain like the pain that I had as a result of the nerve issues that set in after surgery. And so, I went into it with this idea that I can overcome this. I know what I'm going to face. It's going to be fine. And it was like I ran into a brick wall of pain that I didn't expect, that I didn't want, that I wasn't told would happen, that was completely unexpected. And I was not mentally prepared for that. And so, yeah, like leading up to it, it was business as usual. But the moment that I got into it, I realized this is not what I signed up for.
That's deep. So Okay, first of all, I would really highlight the fact you mentioned that the same sort of activities may not yield the same results or same experience. So, obviously, from the human psychology side of the house, if we have done something, we become more confident because we've been there. But obviously, there's a saying, right? Humans make plans and God laughs. So, so that is, I think, one of the things which really highlights in your case, as you mentioned, that nerves pain set in. And now the people, I mean, uh, in a way, I'm also one of the blessed one who never been to any surgery here, but the people who have been or never have seen surgery or the impact of the pain you're talking about, if you're comfortable, help us walk through like what kind of those pains are. And obviously, those are physical pains. They must have translated to the mental anxiety, stress, and I don't know what all those things comes in. If you can kind of provide some unfiltered version of how
Yeah.
exactly those things happens, how you cope up with that, or anything, that would be really appreciated.
Yeah. So happy to share. It's so when the pain first started, right? It was just one of those things that, oh, it hurts. It doesn't hurt in a way that it was hurting before. I'll just take some ibuprofen and it'll go away. And I took the ibuprofen and it didn't go away, and it kept getting worse and kept getting worse. And um, the first day of it, maybe two or three, I was like, oh, I'll just I'll just push through. I'm just going to push through it. I can get through this. It's temporary. The pain's temporary. It'll go away. Um, and after 3 days of the pain, I had called my doctor, got some additional medication for nerve pain, um, and I went to my doctor thinking, oh, the nerve pain meds worked, so this is good. I'm going to go to the doctor and he's going to say, yeah, this is totally normal and you're fine, and you're going to get through this and don't worry about it. And I went to the doctor and the doctor said, huh, I don't I don't understand. That shouldn't happen.
Mhm.
And immediately, emotionally, mentally, I became incredibly anxious because I learned in that moment that this isn't normal. This isn't what's supposed to happen. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. We're in uncharted waters. That we don't know why it's happening. He flat out told me, I don't know why you have the pain that you have, and I don't know what we need to do to fix it. So all I can hope is that physical therapy is going to make it better. And that hearing that from a doctor, and it's no fault of his own. He didn't know. He told me exactly what he knew, which was I don't know what's going on. But in doing that, he immediately made me realize that I don't know what to expect next, and I'm not comfortable where I'm at, and I hurt really bad, and I may hurt really bad forever. And like it's hard when the thoughts that set in become negative, and they become almost paralyzing in some ways, because we give into this idea that everything that we held dear, everything that we cared about, everything that we loved about life might be gone. And it's so negative, right? And I can look back on it now and I can say, wow, that was really dark. Like, why did I let myself go to that place? The reality is that it's not something that I intentionally did. It's not something that I wanted to do. What it was the direct result of a loss of control or a sense of control in my life. And and that's normal. It's normal when we feel out of control to be scared. It's normal when we feel out of control to worry, to have anxiety, to think the worst, because that confidence that you just talked about, Sarab, that thing that we get from doing life successfully is eroded by the loss of control. And so for me, emotionally, it became a very real, dark spot that I was in. And that lasted for months. It wasn't something that just, oh, well, I'll talk about it every day and then I'll feel better. Talking about it made it worse. Talking about it seemed to amplified the sense of anxiety that I had over whether or not it was going to get better. The fact that every day that it lasted and every day that it continued was one more day in the wrong direction. And and so emotionally and mentally, there was just it wore on me. There was a sense of completely lost energy. I felt like the wind was taken out of my sails. I felt like I had no hope that I was going to be able to ride a bike again if this is how it was going to feel. And my mind went to all of those places that you don't want to go, because I didn't have the confidence that it was going to be okay. And um, I couldn't produce that confidence. Um, I couldn't make myself feel whole and happy and strong in those moments. Um, and it became very clear to me pretty quickly that I was going to need help.
Hmm. Yep. First of all, thanks for hearing. Thanks for sharing. Sorry. I was also kind of got into kind of a journey, right? The way how you explain. I mean, from the other side of the fence, I can only imagine. But you have gone through this. So what happens next? I mean, how did you overcome with the impact of negativity? Because I think this is a very steep slope. If you don't control the speed, really, I mean, it's a snowball effect, right? I have talked to a lot of people where they mentioned that if you don't stop it, you will get into a deep abyss of depression, anxiety, and I don't know what else is there. So yeah, how did you try to balance this and maybe just push some brakes?
Yeah, so that's a really fantastic question. I um, I know myself, as we talked about previously, I suffer from PTSD, and I
Yeah.
know myself well enough to know that when I get to this place where my hope is lost and I feel um, like I'm depressed and I'm nervous and I'm anxious and I'm afraid, and all of those negative emotions are flooding in and I don't know what to do, I turn to the people who are closest to me. So in that case, it was my wife. And there were plenty of days where if I've learned if I hold it all in, it just gets worse. And so day after day after day for the better part of 2 months, I would just, at the end of the day, I would just bare my soul to my wife and this fact that I'm hurting, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, it it's not getting better. I'm worried it's never going to get better. And I let it all out. And I think this is a key part of what I wanted to talk with you about today, as I was thinking, and preparing for our conversation. This idea that our strength does not come from within alone. We can have resolve. We can have strength. We can have character. We can have passion. We can have perseverance be a characteristic of who we are. But strength to face the struggles of life is amplified tremendously through community. And so when you talk about what did I do? How did I overcome this? How did I get to the place where I was felt whole again? It wasn't just my wife that I needed help from. It was the community of people that I have surrounded myself with that I leaned into and sought support from when I didn't feel strong. And so I think a big part of our resilience, a big part of us overcoming the struggles that we face, is to recognize that we cannot do it alone, and that with the help of others, we can be stronger than we would ever be on our own. And so for me, it was a lot of conversations, a lot of repeating the same phrases over and over again, because that's just where I was stuck, with this sense of it's never going to get better. What if it never gets better? And that was, I had to get to a place where my mantra changed. My mantra couldn't be, what if this is all that there is to life? What if this is the best it's going to be? Because that's definitely negative, right? And yet I didn't know how to change that mantra. And what I found is that by surrounding myself with enough people who were not facing the struggle themselves, but were outsiders looking in, who knew me, knew my heart, knew my love for life, knew the passions that I had, that if I surrounded myself with enough of those people, that the messages of positivity that they would flood into my life might just overcome the negativity that I was feeling. And it did. It didn't happen overnight. It wasn't something that, oh, I just went out and talked to a friend and I just felt so much better. No, no, it doesn't work that way, right? It's not. Our mind has so much power over our bodies. And so when your mind is in that negative space, your body feels that negativity in every way. And so it really was continuous pouring out the negativity, laying it all on the table, and asking the folks in my life to just remind me that there's things that are worth living for, that are worth laughing about, that are worth enjoying, that are worth fighting for, because I had lost that fight inside of me. And you talked about something at the start, and it resonated strongly with me, that real life people, like, even you used the phrase real life heroes, like the people who struggle and overcome, and they face adversity, and they come out of it stronger or better or more resilient than they went into it. um, that's true oftentimes, but I think that the true unsung heroes in all of it are those members of our community, our direct sphere of influence, the people who we associate with, who we build those relationships with, and who we lean on in our times of trouble. Those are the real unsung heroes of our resilience and of our ability to overcome.
Yeah, that's so profound you mentioned, and as we say that human is a social animal, so we definitely need each other to kind of support us. Uh, so how exactly you're in this whole things where you are grappling with your own negativity, reaching out to your wife, obviously reaching out to your friends and relatives, and you mentioned that's a journey, so it's not like overnight it happens. How was your kids doing with all those things? They definitely, their young minds, they have a lot of questions, and sometimes it becomes difficult to make them understand in an adult's language what's going through, and they have their own interpretations. So how you and your wife or anyone who is close to your family dealt with your kids or dealing with right now as well?
Yeah, so um, that's a really great question, because that question kind of uncovers the way in which children differ tremendously from adults. Uh, as an adult, I was struggling. I have coping mechanisms that I've built over time. Those coping mechanisms, whether they were failing or not, I at least have them, and and they play a part even when overwhelmed. The coping mechanisms that we have are still at work in us, trying to bring us back to that sense of normalcy, that sense of strength and calm and peace. And so, like, what was abundantly clear to us was that the kids faced an inability to cope with that. So for them, there's a lot of sadness. They don't want to see the people they love hurting. They don't want to see the people they love in pain. They don't want to see the people that they love not loving life. Because in the mind of a child, life is great. Life, there's so much goodness in life, and I can go out and I can do all these things, and I can play and I can run and I can have friends, and I can do all these things, and I love it. And there's very few things in life that, sometimes it's school, sometimes it's hard work, sometimes it's cleaning their rooms and assorted other things. There's things in their lives that they don't necessarily enjoy, but we do our best as parents to shield them from the things that would cause them to realize how hard life can be. And so this was one of those times where I couldn't shield them from it, and because mentally I couldn't shield myself from it. And so there was a lot of conversations that had to be had with the kids to be able to say, listen, boys, there's a lot of times in life when life gets hard, and it hurts physically, and it hurts emotionally, and we don't know sometimes what end is up. But what we do know is that together we can get through this. And so I took the opportunity to let them into that mess that I found myself in, rather than pushing them out of it and saying, this isn't a place for you. This isn't like, just stay away, stay out of it, avoid it, and don't let it be something that brings you down. Instead of doing all of those things, I invited my children into it, into the struggle, into the hurt, into the pain, into the emotional struggle that I was having. And I allowed them to be a part of helping me to get through it. And so, because believe it or not, one of the things that they need from us more than anything else as parents is for us to demonstrate how to be strong. It's easy for us to go through life and just, pretend that we have it all together. Um, when I said demonstrate how to be strong, what I really mean, I need to unpack that a little bit, because what we're
Yes.
really demonstrating to them isn't just this idea that we're strong and we can overcome. It's this idea that we are weak and we need help. The strength, again, the strength comes through community. The strength comes through asking for help. The strength comes through being vulnerable and transparent with people, and helping them to see that we don't have to bottle it all up and do it all on our own and face all the struggles and deal with all of those demons on our own. We can work together. We can be a team, and together we can overcome. Um, they need us to teach that. They need us to demonstrate it. They need us to actually exemplify those behaviors, because it's only through seeing them that they can truly understand them. We could talk about them for days and days and days, and it's all just theoretical. But when they see it lived out in front of them, they see that it's okay. We normalize the fact that we struggle. We normalize the fact that we have mental fitness. I like the term mental fitness. I've picked it
Yes.
up in the last couple months, and I just, that sometimes our mental fitness, like our physical fitness, is in a lull. Sometimes it's not at its peak, and it's not right where we want it to be. But in those times, that we're still okay, and that we're still able to overcome, as long as we work together. So the kids proved more resilient than I expected them to be, and at the same time, they demonstrated an appropriate level of being overwhelmed at times with the way that it was, and we worked through those things.
Yeah, I think you said it very beautifully, and I think stick to your mindset to bring everyone together, as you mentioned that we are all in it together, but you really live with that, because as you rightly mentioned, a lot of people try to keep their kids away from all the challenges, thinking that let them be, they are kids, they do not understand. But the mindset which you are bringing in, which I think I also try to learn, is that when you're facing issues and challenging, bring them. First of all, they will feel a part. It's not like just saying we are in it together. You are living that experience, and then you are also making them understand what is life. Because as a kid, uh, we do not know much about it. Like some kids pretty much grow up pretty early because they have seen a lot of challenges in their life. So we have to really bring, as you mentioned, that sometimes they get much more resilient in the terms of they are much more advanced as their peers in terms of understanding life. And we are not kind of safeguarding them into that. Oh, you are my pie, and or whatever the thing may be, right? Obviously, you are, but you're just trying to make sure that whatever is going through in our life, they are in it together. And these things, I guess, from the kids' perspective, the only thing, maybe one of the sometimes you might feel, maybe they understand few things, they cry, they feel sad, and then maybe 5 minutes later they are like nothing happened. As an adult, it never happens, right? We always carry the burden of past grudges, or what you said 5 years back, and I still remember that. And just think about kids, right? And one of the I think I was listening to one of the pretty influential guy. He mentioned that we should be like kids. We should be like kids in a way that do things, be happy, forget things, ignore bad things, and even just ignore good things, because always try to be on a clean slate when you have those experiences. But obviously, it's not happens as frequently. So that's great, actually. So coming back to your journey, so how's your shoulder injury at this point?
It's good. I would say I'm probably 70% of the way to being healed right now. There's some flexibility issues, still some nerve pain issues that are lessening with every passing day. Physical therapy is going great, and I'm making my way into the cycling season right now, riding indoors on my
Mhm.
trainer, but hoping uh, that I get out sometime in the next few weeks and start riding outdoors. Um, I've taken on leading with my wife. We are co-leading a Wednesday night ride within the community. We have a pretty strong cycling community here in our hometown, and so um, we've got a lot of friends and fellow cyclists that are going to be joining us on Wednesday nights starting this week. She's going to lead it without me until I can get out there on the bike again. But you know, really, I think one of the ways that we come back strong is that we take back those things that were ours, that we felt like were taken away from us in that time of struggle. And so um, oftentimes when dealing with survivors of trauma, um, the conversation is about how do we allow them to take back control and power over their lives. And so I think that applies to me as well in this situation. I'm trying to take back that control and say I'm going to do the things that I love again, and I'm not going to allow this struggle to take them away from me. So yeah, it's on the mend, and hopefully with any luck we'll be back out on the road in the next couple of weeks.
The way you are a fighter, obviously you were, or I think you are still a firefighter. In
Mhm.
our previous episode, we discussed about how that also changed your life, about your son's situation, which leads to your firefighting. I obviously not repeat. I'll encourage all the people to watch that episode as well, because again, as usual, Brad has always so many things to think, and the way how you express that really thinks that how much you think about life. So coming back to the things we discussed about the last year, the shoulder injury, the impact and all, then maybe everything seems to be normalized, and then again you hit a roadblock, I think, with your wife's bike accident. Tell us more how exactly it happens, or these things unfold.
Yeah. Um, so I went into shoulder surgery having scheduled a number of gravel races with my wife that we were going to ride this season. And so when I did get scheduled for surgery, I opted to have the surgery, even though it meant I was going to have to cancel some of my race events that I was going to be doing. One of those races was a race that took place about a month ago, and my wife and I were going to ride it, and I sold my registration to someone else, and instead of going to the race, which I would normally do, I would normally go to the race and be there at the start finish line, waiting for her to finish, see her off and all of those things. It happened to be Easter weekend and her folks were in town. And so I said, I'll just stay home. It's no big deal. I'll stay home with your folks. And when you get back and we'll enjoy Easter. And, and I was following her on live track, watching her ride, and I saw that she was just about to finish the race, and I was going to call her as soon as she crossed the finish line, because she's got a headset on her helmet, and so I could congratulate her and ask her how she did, and really just share in the moment with her. And I was watching her live track, and it stopped about 200 yards from the finish line, and I was like,
Wow.
"That's weird. I wonder why it stopped." And I thought to myself, oh, that's strange. And so I looked at the results and I saw that the people who she typically rides with from our cycling club had all crossed the finish line. And I thought, well, that's really strange. I wonder if her bib just didn't cross, or something went wrong with her bib. That must be what it is. And then the phone rang, and it was a fellow cyclist from our club, and he said, Brad, I I don't know what's going on right now, but Alyssa took a really hard fall and there's blood everywhere and you need to get here. And not at all what you want to hear. Um, and something that even as I say it, it evokes quite the emotional response, right? Because the
Yes.
people that we love the most, um,
This is the
we don't
last
ever
thing
want to
we
get
can.
those phone calls, right? And so got the phone call. I was like, as you mentioned, I'm a firefighter EMT, and so in my head, I immediately flipped on that EMT thought process, and I thought, okay, she went down hard. Is she conscious? Is she all these things? And like in my head, I'm going through what I
Yeah.
need to check on a patient if I was on scene. And I'm thinking, well, I'll just ask him all these questions and he'll just get me all these answers. And I asked him the first question, which was, can you get to her? And he said, there's a lot of people around her. I don't think I can. And I said, no, I need you to go there. And thinking he's just going to push his way in because that's what I would do.
Yeah.
And he couldn't. And this is a part of um, like when I think about me and who I am, he's not me, and he doesn't have that resolve, that strength, that ability to endure those moments. There was blood, a lot of it, and she was hurt bad, and there was a lot of people around her trying to help her, and he was not comfortable in that moment, and that's okay. But all I needed in that moment was for somebody to just tell me it's going to be okay, and I couldn't get that. And so I immediately got in the car before I even knew where they were taking her. She was 45 minutes away from me at that moment. And so I knew that wherever she went, I was going to have to drive there. And so I got in the car and I started heading west because I knew she was 45 minutes west of me. And I got on the highway and the sheriff called and he said, hey, it's the sheriff. Um, by now you probably know your wife's been in an accident. I said, yes, I need to know where she's going. He said, well, I think she's going here. I said, I need you to validate that. And then can you let me know that she's okay? And he said, well, I think she's going to be okay. Let me
Mhm.
go check and see where they're going. And he opened the back door of the ambulance, and all I could hear was screaming. And so in that moment, everything in me was thinking, this is my wife. She's screaming. Why is she screaming? What's wrong? I need to get there, and I'm not there. And so they told me where they were taking her. They were taking her to the nearest level 1 trauma center, which was appropriate given the injuries that she sustained. And so I drove the hour that it took to get there, and I hung up the phone and I immediately started crying, and I called a friend, and I was just like, I don't know, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I don't know how to get through this. I'm scared. And he was like, okay, I'm on my way to the hospital. I'll be there as soon as you're able to or need anything. You just let me know, and I'm going to be there for you, and I'll be there with you. And if you need me to stay on the line with you, I can stay on the line with you. And I said, no, I need to get a hold of my brother, who's actually, my brother was at the hospital that day. His wife was in the ICU. We had a tough weekend that
Oh,
weekend.
wow. Okay.
And so I called him and I said, hey, I know you're in the ICU right now, but I'm wondering if you can go downstairs and see if you can find my wife. She's coming into the ER right now. She had a bad bike accident. And he was like, yeah, no problem. My wife is sleeping right now. Let me head down there and I'll see what I can do. And again, we talk about community. We talk about how we can't do it alone. And I said to him, I said, Brian, I need you to be there. I need you to fight for her. I need you to take care of her the way that I would, because I can't be there right now. And he said, sure. And he did. And he went down there, and the beauty of it is, like, I got to the hospital and I walked in the doors. My brother is standing in front of me as I walked in the doors, talking to a nurse, telling her, I don't care. I need to see her. I don't care that I'm not her husband. I need to see her. Her husband asked me to do this. You need to let me in. And he's like fighting with the nursing staff to get back to where my wife was. And I just put my hand on his shoulder and I said, I'm here. I'm here. It's okay. We're going to be okay. And in that moment, I took a deep breath and I walked back to the trauma bay and I saw my wife, and she was pretty beat up. And um, and she was so worried about me. In that moment, this is the beauty of love and of like the just the care for other people, the compassion that she has for me and my circumstances and my PTSD. That the first thing she thought about wasn't, did I rip my nose off of my face, but was like, oh, I'm worried about how my husband's going to take this. I'm worried about how worried he's going to be. I'm worried
Wow.
about how it's going to affect his PTSD. I'm worried about all these things. And in that moment, she was my strength and I was her strength. And together we overcame that circumstance, and it was scary. And it really ignited my PTSD. But in that moment, um, we were able to come together and to be together and to be there and to be strong, and lean into the family and friends that we have. They take somebody to the hospital in a trauma and they cut all their clothes off. Well, so my wife went into the hospital with no clothes that she could wear out of the hospital. So I'm like, I don't even know what to do. But guess what? My friend was there and he was waiting in the waiting room. And I walked out to the waiting room and I said, "Hey man, um, could you find some clothes? Like she doesn't have any clothes to wear." And he was like, "Yeah, no problem, man. Just let me do it, and I'll be right back." And he took off. He's not even from the city. He didn't know anything about the city, and he just figured out where to find some sweatpants and a sweatshirt. And he came back and he gave me the clothes I needed so that we could get out of the hospital. And everybody came together, because the people who I choose to surround myself with will do anything for the people that they love, will do anything for the people that they care about. And because I do the same, right? It's this is the beauty of the community that we can build for ourselves, is that when we give, when we're willing to say, I will give of myself, even when it's a sacrifice for the betterment of others, then when we are in a time of need, people will do the same for us. And that's like, it's a really fast like journey through what happened, and she's better now.
Mhm.
It was a really fast journey through what happened, and at the same time, it highlights for you the importance of this community that I've talked about, because it's not, eh, like you said, just starting to get to the point where, okay, cool, like life is getting better, the shoulder's getting better, and I'm starting to be okay, and then bam, here's this hugely negative thing, super scary, could have been way worse. She came home, she recovered. I took a week off of work to help her out, um, and she's fine now, other than a couple of bruised ribs, and some work that she's doing with physical therapy on her hip. But otherwise, she's okay, and she's going to be okay. And my kids still have a mom, and I still have a wife, and all of the things that in those moments flash before our eyes, those things that immediately our minds take us to that worst possible scenario. All of those things played out in my mind on the way to the hospital, and none of those things came true. And and like, that's what we have to be thankful for, and that's what we have to focus on. It could have been bad, it could have been much worse, and in the end, we're all okay, we're all still here. And we have to start to build back up that confidence again that comes from overcoming, to replace that sense of loss and of fear and of worry and of anxiety with a sense of strength and resilience. And again, it all comes through that community that we build for ourselves.
That's amazing. I was so much immersed. First of all, the way how you mentioned, amazing to go through that seesaw of emotions, and the way you explain that, really, I would say, I was literally imagining those things happening over there. So first of all, Brad, I mean, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart to not only enlighten me and maybe the people when they look into this podcast. I think this is has so much of life lessons, and the way how we cannot take things for granted and live each and every moment on to that level, right? And you, I mean, I don't even know what to say right now, but the thing which you have really mentioned, and I recall you shared some pictures. So first of all, I'm so humbled to, like, you thought about me sending those information and sharing those vulnerable moments, because these kind of things really helps me to be more mature in life, right? It's always a journey. Not always that you have to go through some things you learn from, and people like you who always believe in community, family values, uh, those things really appreciate it. So, I I mean, right now, I think, as you mentioned, your wife is recuperating well, and and again, while you're talking about, I was again thinking from the kids' perspective, they would be like, "Oh, that's," and the way how they are. I mean, they must have seen so much over there, and so now, how exactly as a family, after all these incidents, has anything changed the way how you think or live? Have you changed any your perspective, which is now common across anything, like maybe as simple as a daily routine?
Yeah, so one of the things that we focus on when we face struggles, and especially in light of the struggles that we've faced recently, the daily message, the weekly message, the thing that we reiterate over and over again with our kids these days is we have to do hard things. Life is full of hard things, and we have to take them on head on. We can't run away from them. We can't we can't act as though they're not here. We can't live a life that ignores them. We have to do the hard things. We have to do the scary things. We have to do the things that we don't really want to do sometimes, because in doing those things, we become stronger. We become more capable. We become more confident. We become all of these things. Um, they didn't want their mom to go back out on a bike ride, and um, and they told her that. They said, I don't want you to go because I don't want you to get hurt. And she said, I understand that, but I need to go because I need to prove to myself that I can still do the things that I love, even though I've been hurt.
Wow.
And and so when we when we take that approach to life ourselves, when we demonstrate to our kids that that the hardest thing to do is get back on the saddle. When you fall, the hardest thing to do is get back on the saddle. And it's not even because you think you're going to fall again, because you know in your head, statistically, the likelihood that the next time you get on the saddle, you're going to fall again is so incredibly low. It's not even, it's as if it's not even going to happen. It's not even possible, right? The probability is so low. But it says a lot of things, especially to a kid, because like you said, we oftentimes act like kids don't understand. They're not capable of processing. They're not capable of learning. They're not capable of getting it. It's just too much for them. We have to protect them. All of these things. I can tell you one thing for certain. They get it when they see somebody say, I'm stronger than the struggle that I'm going through. They get it. They get it when they see them live it out. They get it when they see them go again and again and again back to that well and know that it's going to be hard and know that they're going to face struggle, but they go through it and they face it and they do it again and again because they love the life that they have. They love the life that they get to live together, and they want to pursue that with all of their heart. And that's something that, like, it happens if we just overcome. If we overcome in a way that is visible to our children, that is visible to the people in our lives, we share, you talked at the start, we share that message about the fact that together we can make this world a better place. How do we do it? We do it by getting back on the saddle. We do it by going back out there and doing the difficult things day in and day out and showing the world that we can do it, and so can they.
Absolutely. Getting back to the saddle is something which you so beautifully mentioned, and I would say that the the mindset and the culture you are inculcating to your kids about, you get down but you're not fearful, like you are going back again stronger than ever. It really shows them that this is about, if something happens to me in terms of like I got hurt physically or mentally, I'll not be fearful. I'll not ignore that road now or at that alley now. I'll go back stronger. And there's a book called Anti-Fragile, if you have seen that, right? I mean, by Nassim Taleb, he mentioned
Hmm.
that there's a robust, there's a fragile, but then there's a category called anti-fragile, which means that the more hit you got in terms of situations, circumstances, or any object, if it becomes more stronger, the more it becomes anti-fragile. And that is something which I would really would like to stress. And I would recommend everyone. I think this is one of the amazing podcasts. And so many golden nuggets. I would really would like to review it again and gives a new perspective that how things is so unpredictable. But at the same time, what is predictable is your mindset and the way you approach it. So that being said, I was about to ask few questions, but I think you have already answered a lot of things. But still, I would ask just for the consistency of our when we get towards the end. So the question is now you already have defined leadership in a lot of ways, right? You've been a leader in your organization as well, and we have talked about life. But any one, I mean, if we just say that in one word, if you can define leadership, what that one word would be?
That word would be service.
Service. Wow, that's great. That's great. And I'll let everyone to decipher that. I'll not talk and kind of decipher it. Service is the word. The other thing is, the other question is any favorite book, podcast, or anything which really gives you a new meaning to the life in maybe the last 1 year while you are coping up with these challenges.
Um, so it wasn't a it wasn't so much a podcast. I
Mhm.
saw it, a couple of TED Talks. TED Talks are kind of one of
Yeah.
those ways that I love to just kind of like grab onto a topic that's only 15 minutes long, and then
Yes.
like I can just chew on it for a month or two, right? And I saw one on resilience actually. A woman was talking about how she was a performance psychologist, worked with performance athletes to help them to become more performant. And that all through time, everybody's always said that people need to be more resilient. And we build these needs for people to be resilient. You just have to, man, if you could just put up with more, then you're better and you're more performant. And like you're going to be better if you can just make yourself endure more struggle. And like that's the approach that we took to performance athleticism. And she said, the crazy thing is that she learned that that's not actually the most important thing. The most important thing is that we recognize that all of it requires energy. And the one thing that we don't do with performance athletes enough of is re energizing them. And I took that and I thought, how crazy is that? Like in my life, how many things am I doing every day where I'm doing something that just drains me of energy? Now, how many times am I doing something in the day where I'm going out and I'm intentionally trying to build that energy back up? Whether it's the 10-minute walk from the parking garage to the building, whether it's, whatever it is, am I putting those noise canceling headphones on? Am I listening to that music that builds me up? Am I doing that thing to completely disconnect from the stressors of life and to just re-energize myself? Or am I going through life expecting that the energy is just going to be there in greater and greater volumes as I put higher and higher demands on myself? So that's kind of what I focused on was in the last 6 months was just that TED talk about the importance of re-energizing, not just aiming to be resilient.
Exactly. Yeah. The energy is something which we really have to regain. And I totally resonate with that. Being a runner myself, we have to kind of re energize. Otherwise, we can sucked into a lot of things which happens in our life.
Hmm.
So I think that's great. And what is the last question would be what is one advice you got from your mentor, which always carries you along no matter what the situation is, which you would like to share with our audience?
Well, um, I think one of the things that a mentor of mine told me a long time ago that has stuck with me, and this is founded somewhat in faith and spirituality, but I'm not going to kind of take it to that place, but more this idea of what's true. You know what's true. No matter what happens in life, the truth
Yeah.
doesn't change. No matter what you face, the truth doesn't change. The truth is true no matter what. And you know the truth. Lean into the truth and the truth will set you free. And so like in my life, I try and it sounds so cliche, but in my life, when all of these things are happening and I'm so worried and I'm so scared and I'm so distraught, if I can just stop it all for just a moment and consider what's true. What is true in this moment? What is absolutely unequivocally true in this moment? I'm alive. My heart is beating. I'm not dying. The ones that I love are okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We are okay. Oh, it's true. We are okay. Wait a minute. Everything in me says we're not okay, but the truth is we are okay. And so like that thing that I just continually lean into more and more, especially with PTSD, but even before that is, you know what the truth is. Lean on it. Stand on it with everything you have, and it will set you free.
Great. You know what the truth is, lean on it. That's great. That's absolutely a great way to finish our conversation, Brad. That being said, you've been always a great storyteller, and the way how you provide your vulnerable moments, we are truly honored to be the second time in your podcast in the podcast here. So, Brad, again, thank you so much for providing some valuable lessons, your life stories, and I wish nothing but all the happiness, health, and satisfaction for you, your family, and all the people you know around.
Thanks so much, Saurabh. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Definitely. Have a great one. Bye bye. We hope you enjoyed our show today. If you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to reach out to us on social media or leave a comment. Don't forget, yes, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so you never miss an episode. And if you find value in our conversation today, we would be incredibly grateful if you could leave us a rating, reviews, or comments. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we will be back with another episode next week. Till then, keep the conversation going. Let's talk.